Okay, so it is March 8th. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
I got a question.
Yeah.
On the brainstorming entry, can you expand on what you were really wanting from that a little bit more?
I just want you to have come up with an idea by today. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Cool.
Did you guys all come up with an idea by today?
There were a lot of good ideas in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put an idea. I'm still thinking, but
Well, how about those of you who are here? We talk a little bit about what you're thinking of. Anybody want to talk about what you're?
Well, I wanted to try to do a video game. I'm thinking one of my favorite ones, God of War.
You're gonna have to talk a little louder today.
Oh, sorry. I think my internet's kind of struggling, but I'm thinking God of War, one of my favorite video games.
Okay. What's so good about it?
Well, I read the example of the analysis on Mass Effect in the textbook, and talked about like how the game makes like wants players to feel, and like it's a pretty moving like story. It's like pretty emotionally driven, but then there's also a lot of action, and like after I read that example, it was like the first one that came to mind. Like, oh, I can see like what they were trying to do here.
Yeah. Maybe you can make somebody like me want to play a game like that. I don't currently play any games, so I would have to really.
Link here.
I'm sorry. It's on really loud because I had an alarm on this morning. I wanted to make sure it did not sleep through it, so that I could be awake at the time that the Mr. Appliance repairman came to look at our stove, which the panel has totally turned blank. This stove, oven, range, whatever you call it, is a year and 3 months old. And so it went blank, and he investigated and he said, you need a new panel. They don't make this panel anymore. So anyway, I'm going to have to use my persuasive abilities, I guess, to call up Samsung, and I don't know exactly what. But it's obviously, it was defective. The appliance guy said, the repair guy said he's had to repair a lot of these. So I guess they're not making it anymore because it was a defective product, but I don't know. Oh, I love it.
There should be some kind of warranty.
Well, we never buy the extended warranty. So it went out of warranty at a year. And and it is now a year and 3 months old. I don't know. Maybe we need to start buying these.
That's the way it usually happens.
I don't know. I don't want to think about it. These things are whatever. Okay, so back to what you want to analyze rhetorically. So that definitely seems like something that you could work with. And it's along the same theme as your opinion article and along the same theme as the articles that you shared for the discussion. How about the rest of you? Let's see. Jay, you had actually emailed me. Are you still? Because I had not allowed you to create links or threads. But.
Some of us went in there, and I think we can create threads now. I posted
Yeah,
something
no,
somewhere in there.
I fixed it. I appreciate that you pointed that out.
Sure. Yeah, I decided to go ahead and go with that, even though it's going to be like an immense challenge. I wanted to probably go ahead and at least try, because I think it's like it's sort of a just a notable literary monument to me. I mean, it's monumental to me.
Mm-hmm.
I just there's just a lot that attracts me about it's. For the people that haven't read my post, it's my nomination is for James Baldwin's letter to his nephew, and it has a lot to do with his life experiences as a black man, and what he wants to impart to his nephew in terms of like words of wisdom to an up and coming generation. And it's like from that perspective, and it's really still very relevant today.
Yeah, maybe more so.
Yeah.
Morgan or Aaliyah?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. You can go if you want.
Doesn't matter.
I was thinking about a piece on climate change. I posted that in the discussion.
Okay.
But also I was going to ask you, on an earlier Zoom meeting we had, did you say we could do a song?
Sure.
Okay. I was also thinking about a song by Halsey. It's called Nightmare. I don't know if any of you've heard it, but it's kind of like a feminist song, and it talks about like the expectations and stereotypes about women, and like the expectations that specifically men put on women, and historically the expectations women have had to live up to. But I'm deciding between those two.
Okay. Halsey is the singer.
Yes.
That's a group or a person?
A person.
And does she usually do sort of message songs?
Yeah. She talks a lot about in her music because she's biracial, and she's talks about her experiences as a woman, and her experiences with men, and figuring out, you know, feminism and her identity as a Black woman in America.
That sounds great. Yeah, that will be really interesting. And you could do a link to the song. Is it? It's probably available on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And Leah?
Oh, I wanted to do mine on the Lemonade visual album by Beyonce Knowles, which highlights Black culture, Black feminism, and tells the tale of a woman going through misogyny and cheating by her husband.
Ooh.
Yes.
So the whole album,
Yeah.
what's it called? Lemonade?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the title mean?
What's the title mean? I don't know. I think it's a quote she got from maybe Nina Simone. I'm not actually sure. I should research that.
Okay, this sounds cool. Well, I look forward to all of these. I think these are all great possibilities, and I think it's great thinking about popular culture products, and you know, and the rhetoric that they're conveying. as well as literary products, as Jay said. So, I mean, that's the thing about rhetorical concepts. I think it helps us think about both high and low um, rhetoric. I don't even know if in rhetoric we use the same things. Oh, my glasses seem twisted today. Let me share the screen. I read an article about being exhausted from using Zoom all the time. One of the suggestions was actually to not allow have your own picture posted. You can hide it somehow. Let's see. I can hide self view. Then I don't have to look at myself. And that was one of the suggestions that they made. I am going to put into the chat a link to a share with people and groups. That's not what I want. Well, I guess I could do it that way. Share. I want to, well, I guess I'll just do it this way. There, we got yours. So that sent you an email, but I really want the link. Get link. Now that's what I want. All right. If your email is accessible, I sent this by email, but what I really wanted to do, and I've just done it, is I clicked on this in the chat. So we're going to take a look at some editorials about Dr. Seuss. Has anybody paid attention to this somewhat Tempest in a Teapot issue? Okay. All right, here we are with my presentation. First of all, let me summarize where you are in terms of the schedule. So we are starting a new blog, this time on rhetorical analysis. And the first pass for this blog is due on Wednesday, March 17th. And we'll take a look at the instructions in a minute. Also, you should be preparing for a quiz because this is our last week on the argumentation chapter. And we'll be having a quiz on the material in that chapter. And it will open up on Thursday and go through Sunday night. So to prepare for that, you can reread the chapter, and also you can review all the classes. Everything's up recorded. So even if you have been there, you could look at the recordings if you wanted to. You could also go over the discussions. And I put a link in here for the schedule. So here we are in this week 8. And so that's what the blog will do to apply ideas of argumentation to the so that was, I'm sorry, that was the other thing that's due today. And then next week on the 17th, which is the last class before spring break, you applied the ideas about Kairos, genre argumentation for the rhetorical analysis in the blog. And here's the quiz, and here this is. Can you believe that we're almost to spring break? And probably have too many tabs open. It's going so slowly. So over in the blog, so there is a new one, and here's the old one, the persuasive, and here is the new one, and basically what you will be moving toward is 1,000 to 1,500 word analysis of whatever this item is. And this is just kind of a first pass, first draft, and to think about the concepts we have talked about already, which are kairos, rhetorical situation, who is, by rhetorical situation, you know, it's the triangle really, who is writing or speaking or delivering or posting, or I guess I should say creating or singing, or, you know, whatever the appropriate verb is. What, to whom, for what purpose. Genre you can think about, ethos, logos, and pathos strategies of persuasion being used, the enthymemes and syllogisms of the argument, i.e. what is being argued and how, Toolman analysis of the argument, and primary stasis used in the argument. Now, you do not have to talk about all of these things, but each thing, each artifact that you've chosen will kind of lend itself to, some of these as opposed to others of these. So for example, sometimes like a song might be really tied to a particular moment in time. And so Kairos might be really important. Or a written literary work might not be really tied to time, or maybe that's the interesting thing, how it was tied to time, but somehow it becomes timeless. So it's kind of what Jay was saying. But what might be really important is trying to think about the sort of the logical claims that are in the argument and what overall he's trying to do. So you do not have to cover all of these, but cover those things that are relevant to talking about the thing that you've talked about. And then the details are the same as the first details. And it's preferable to do it in Google Docs and to keep working on the same Google Doc so that you can see the versions as it goes on. Questions? So we are going to talk about, I thought we could talk about this Dr. Seuss thing and kind of use a couple pieces to sort of summarize and review what we've been talking about so far. So we've talked about lately stasis, that is that something will have, when you have a debate over things, there will usually be a debate over one of these primary questions. And in these editorials that you're looking at, you can often tell what that debate is from the title. So actually Micah had posted something about a Dr. Seuss, about the Dr. Seuss stuff. And the title was, it's not a big deal, basically. And it was sort of an argument really over the facts. And maybe you could say it over a definition, not so much the actual facts, but the how people are defining the facts. Because in fact, people are saying, and we're going to look at one of the editorials I have has this, is everybody is canceling Dr. Seuss. Well, you can see that as a factual debate, because in fact, they're not canceling Dr. Seuss. They're just doing something much more limited. Or you can see that as a definitional thing. That is, we're going to tie this action to this whole concept of canceling culture. And so you define it as part of this cancel culture thing, and then you respond. So fact, definition, quality is similar to evaluation. Anna, what was the title of your piece?
I think it was something along the lines of like why you should play a video game right now and you shouldn't feel bad about it, or something along those lines.
So this is an evaluative statement. Is, it's a great thing to play video games right now, is basically what it's saying. And then it's evaluating all the good things about video games in general, but also maybe specifically. I think some of the most of the debate we're going to look at today has to do with policy. So there is facts, a fact about Dr. Seuss's images. And then the question is, so what are we going to do about it? You know, what should we do about it? That's a policy question. And then objection, which is I think I've never actually, before this book, seen the word objection. The classic term has been sort of jurisdictional, which is complicated and ties it to the legal setting. And so that's why they came up with objection. But the point is, you know, this legal setting is not the right place for us to debate this issue. That's why it was called jurisdictional. That is, you know, it doesn't belong here for discussion. Put it somewhere else. It is also in some ways a subset of policy. That is, don't make a legal case about it, do something else about it. Another thing I want us to sort of review in talking about these articles is the enthymeme, which is the reduced syllogism used in rhetoric rather than logic. It relies on the understood knowledge of the audience, and we fill in the blanks. The blanks are presuppositions and values, and in Toulmin terms, they're the warrants. So just as a reminder, what are the Toulmin terms? The basic model, Toulmin's terms, there are 6 of them, and you have 3 that fit in the basic main part of the argument. And that is, you have data that leads you to a claim. And the third piece of that is the warrant. So we have data about Dr. Seuss's imagery that leads to a claim of stop publishing 6 of his books. And then we have a warrant that allows one to get from the data to the claim. And we'll see different warrants that come into play. Backing, as you see in this picture, is behind the warrant. So it's more, I mean, a lot of times warrants themselves are arguments. And so you have to have support for the warrant itself. So, and then you have refutation that is going, refuting. In this picture I pulled off the internet, they use reservation, and then you have qualifier. Actually, I think they really, that's the trouble with pulling off the internet. Really, qualifier and reservation are similar, and the real term that we need to have here is rebuttal or refute. Okay, so here's we're going to do this little case study and just kind of look at all the arguments floating around about this. The reason I started thinking about this was because on the 5th, I think that was Friday, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette had 2 op-eds published about it. And I hadn't heard about this issue until then, but I thought, oh, okay, it's 2 different articles. They're short enough. We'll use them to talk about what they're arguing. And then I started reading about it, and it turned out that it's become a big topic on conservative talk show radio and TV, where and even some of the there was a senator who somehow brought it up during all the debate about the new coronavirus package. And so it's become a big issue in one part of the universe. And President Biden was asked about his opinion, and he said, well, I don't have time to deal with that. We need to pass a stimulus package for people. So it is a perfect example, though, of how a topic gets put into the airwaves and becomes, for a short period of time, a topic that a whole bunch of people start talking about. So what happened is March 2nd, and I believe I mentioned this in class the other day, March 2nd is Dr. Seuss's birthday. Because it was his birthday, that was the day they used for this Read Across America when they first set that up. And usually Read Across America announcements by the president, which, you know, they always say something on that day, mentions Dr. Seuss, but this year, President Biden did not mention Dr. Seuss. But more important, on that day, the foundation that runs, you know, his estate, and basically where all the income from the publishing of his books, they said that 6 of his books would no longer be published due to their offensive and racist content. So here is the AP article. And most newspaper outlets and internet outlets did carry some little thing. It says, these books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Dr. Seuss Enterprises told the Associated Press in a statement that coincided with the late author and illustrator's birthday. So, you know, they purposely chose it for that day. These are the 6 books. They got a little fuzzy because they were kind of small. And I'm going to start at the bottom. The Cat's Quizzer, I have never heard of. Scrambled Egg Super, I have never heard of. On Beyond Zebra, I have never heard of. McElligott's Pool, I have not heard of. Has anybody ever heard of those 4? Now, I have heard If I Ran the Zoo and To Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street. How about you guys? Have heard?
I think I've heard of them, but I haven't read them.
Yeah. It is remarkable how many books Dr. Seuss has published. So I was trying to get images to put into my PowerPoint, but most of them were copyright protected. So these images did come up. And before he was a children's book author, he was an advertising executive. So a lot of these were ads. And he also did a whole lot of campaigns against the Japanese. But so this one, this is pretty offensive. You know, he over here in the right this I guess was some kind of advertisement for something.
I did
Now,
not know about that.
what?
I did not know about that.
And it's been pointed out, and I started researching it, of course. And it's a perfect example of Kairos, really. He was a person of his times, and his caricatures, and of course caricatures are designed to be kind of extreme and stereotyped. His caricatures did tend to be pretty offensive. So this is one, I think this is in, this one was in, I think it's If I Ran the Zoo. Yeah, here's the guy with the that said that he'd be the zookeeper. So whatever this invention is, but then he's carried in by three Asian looking men, and it's sort of stereotype of the Asian looking man with their Fu Manchu mustache. And here's another anti-Asian one. It's not that they're anti-Asian, it's just that they have stereotypical caricatures. And it's very hard to actually find, whoops. So this was part of the anti-Japanese campaign, Jap Alley. And it was hard to actually find the ones from the books. So they keep showing the Asian one, but there are a couple that are that's probably sort of maybe a caricature of blacks there. So you see, they've obviously been posting about it for a little bit of time. So that's the data in the Toolman terms. Some of Dr. Seuss's images are offensive, racist, maybe discriminatory, or as they said in the statement itself, they are hurtful and wrong. Ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment and our broader plan to ensure Dr. Seuss Enterprises catalog represents and supports all communities and families. Now, he has a lot other books. So here is the basic Toolman piece, or an enthymeme. Some of Dr. Seuss's books contain racist images, and then the claim is, therefore, those books shouldn't be published. And the specific one was that there were 6 books that contained racist images, and the conclusion or claim, the argument was, therefore, they shouldn't be published. So what is the warrant for that enthymeme or claim plus data? What is the underlying warrant? That is, what do you have to believe that to say, to be convinced that because there are racist images in some of Dr. Seuss's books, those books shouldn't be published?
So would the warrant be that you have to like already like believe in racism and believe that those images are racist?
Okay, that would be part of it. Not so much believe in racism, but believe that those articles, those images are racist. And what else do you have to get to the next point? Therefore, they shouldn't be published.
Would it be that like racist books shouldn't be published? Would that be part of the warrant?
Yeah, that you know, there's a reason racist books shouldn't be published. Seuss books are racist. Is my image showing up, or have I hidden it from everybody?
The image of your PowerPoint.
No, the image of me.
Yeah, you're in the bottom right corner.
Okay, I'm still. So I hid myself from myself, but Seuss's books contains some racist images, therefore they shouldn't be published, or therefore these 6 books shouldn't be published. And in order to believe that, you have to have a basic warrant that says racist books or racist images shouldn't be published. Now, that statement, racist books shouldn't be published, is itself an argument, right? Something that somebody could debate. And we're having the exact same debate, by the way, of course, over the statues. You know, Confederate statues shouldn't be displayed because they are representative of another time. You have to believe that things that are representative of this bad time shouldn't be displayed and honored. It's a slightly different issue, but it's a very similar kind of thing. Now, why, however, would somebody say that racist things shouldn't be, see if I can find my toolman. Okay, so behind the warrant is the backing. And as I said, the warrant in this case was racist images shouldn't be published in children's books. That is itself its own argument. And the backing is the support and reasoning for that. There are probably other warrants that go on in this argument. Here are 3 of the warrants that, you know, might be part of this argument. So one is the one that the Seuss Foundation, Seuss Enterprises said, is they said hurtful and wrong images shouldn't be seen. That still begs the question of, why shouldn't they be seen? And then you could lead to two other warrants. Let's keep Dr. Seuss's image intact by deleting his bad images that he created. That's kind of a cynical one. So they're not saying let's get rid of all of his stuff. They're saying, we ourselves are policing his works, and we want to only have sort of a positive views that, as it turns out, that Dr. Seuss, whose real name is Theodore Geisel, actually felt. It turns out he was a very strong supporter of what we might call liberal causes, and of fighting discrimination. And when he himself realized that what he was doing was kind of offensive, he himself apparently said, he regretted what he'd done. And in this whole process, somebody interviewed his stepdaughter, and she said that although Dr. Seuss wasn't racist, the current environment is so sensitive, we need to protect everyone from these negative images. And here's a longer part of the quote. Seuss's stepdaughter, Lark Gray Diamond Cates, what a name, told the New York Post on Tuesday there wasn't a racist bone in that man's body, but acknowledged she thought it was a wise choice in this day and age. She said Dr. Seuss Enterprises informed her Monday of the decision. He was so acutely aware of the world around him and cared so much, Diamond Cates said. I think this is a world that right now is in pain, and we've all got to be very gentle and thoughtful and kind with each other. So her argument was not in general that we need to get rid of racist images, but at this particular point in time, this Kairos, it's important to protect people from these sensitive things. So this is one of the links on the page I sent you all. And this is an editorial that supports the ban on these 6 books. So it's short enough, so I'm going to read it. 6 Seuss books bore a bias. As you can tell, I don't know if he wrote the title or somebody up the Times, but they particularly tried to get a little cutesy kind of title with this extra alliteration in it. But here's his basic claim. Racism must be exorcised from culture, including or maybe especially from children's culture. So his argument is, so that there's the data. These 6 books had racist images. Here's the claim. Let's stop publishing them. And he's supporting that decision. And what is the warrant for his argument? It's basically indicated in the subhead. Racism must be exorcised from culture, including or maybe especially from children's culture. And what are some of the other sort of warrants that are floating around in that statement? Why does he say especially children's culture?
Because children, they can be a little more impressionable and their judgment is still kind of developing.
And so if they are seeing, if they see these negative images, perhaps of people like them, then it can be more than just, oversensitivity, like the daughter was saying, but that it can be really damaging. So that's what his whole piece is about. So we have a picture of Dr. Seuss drawing. I think that's Horton, Who Hears a Who, maybe. The author of this is an African American. He's an opinion columnist for the New York Times. As a child, I was led to believe that Blackness was inferior, and I was not alone. The Black society into which I was born was riddled with these beliefs. It wasn't something that most, if any, would articulate in that way, let alone knowingly propagate. Rather, it was in the air, in the culture. We had been trained in it, bathed in it, acculturated to hate ourselves. It happened for children in the most inconspicuous of ways. It was relayed through toys and dolls, cartoons and children's shows, fairy tales and children's books. At every turn, at every moment, I was being baptized in the narrative that everything white was right, good, noble, and beautiful, and everything black was the opposite. So, this is an interesting just approach. He's writing about the Seuss books, but he hasn't even mentioned them. But he's gotten into this whole thing of children. The first book I ever bought was a children's book about Job from the Bible. Job was the whitest of white men in the book, and so was the white savior with white beard lounging on a cloud. Indeed, every image I saw of Christianity featured white people. My great uncle had a picture of a stringy-haired, blue-eyed white Jesus hanging over his bed. Some of the first cartoons I can remember included Pepe Le Pew, who normalized rape culture, Speedy Gonzales, whose friends helped popularize the corrosive stereotype of the drunk and lethargic Mexicans, and Mammy Two Shoes, a heavy-set black maid who spoke in a heavy accent. Reruns were a fixture in the pre-cable days, so I watched children's shows like Tarzan, about a half-naked white man in the middle of the African jungle who conquers and tames it and outwits the black people there, who are all portrayed as primitive, if not savage. I watched the old Our Game, The Little Rascal Show, shorts in which the buckwheat character summoned all the stereotypes of the pickaninny. And of course, I watched Westerns that regularly depicted Native Americans as aggressive, bloodthirsty savages against whom valiant white men were forced to fight. As James Baldwin put it in a 1965 essay, in the case of the American Negro, from the moment you were born, every stick and stone, every face is white. Since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5, 6, or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to see Gary Cooper killing off the Indians, and although you are rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians are you. But as the Equal Justice Initiative points out, throughout history, Native people have been subjected to more than 1,500 wars, attacks, and raids authorized by the US government. Under the guise of expanding civilization, the drive to amass land and widen borders incited decades of racial genocide. In elementary school, we celebrated Columbus Day by coloring pictures of a happy, smiling white man and his 3 boats, not knowing that Columbus was a brutal enslaver and slave trader, and who wrote in 1500 of enslaved women and girls. 100 Castellanos are as easily obtained for a woman as for a farm. And it is very general, and there are plenty of dealers who go about looking for girls. Those from 9 to 10 are now in demand. In fact, it is in the early years that we become conscious of race, and it is then that we can begin to assign value to it. And so that line there is kind of the statement that supports this whole argument that we need to especially make sure that the images of race are not negative. As the APA pointed out last year, new research indicates adults in the US believe children should be almost 5 years old before talking with them about race, even though some infants are aware of race and preschoolers may have already developed racist beliefs. I was a teenager before I could start to understand what had been done to me, that I had been taught to hate myself, and for me to start to reverse it. The most illuminating and sad realization came when I became aware of the doll tests, in which very young children were presented with a white doll and a black one and asked to describe each. Most of the children preferred the white dolls and described them positively. About 30 years ago, in my own version of the experiment, I grabbed an old yearbook from a school I attended whose student body was roughly evenly split between white and black students. I gave it to my nephew, who was 4 or 5 years old, and told him to point to the people he thought were pretty. Every face on which that little brown finger landed was white. It underscored for me that the things that we present children with, believing them innocent, can be highly corrosive and racially vicious. So finally, he gets to the Dr. Seuss controversy. This week, when the company that controls the Dr. Seuss books announced they would no longer publish 6 of the books because of racist and insensitive imagery, saying these books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong, I cheered as some bemoaned another victim of so-called cancel culture. Racism must be exorcised from culture, including, or maybe especially, from children's culture. Teaching a child to hate or be ashamed of themselves is a sin against their innocence and a weight against their possibilities. So, to go back again, the data is that these books contain racially insensitive and destructive images. And then the claim is, therefore, we should stop publishing them. And the warrant is because children are deeply affected by the images that they see about race. And that would apply, I think, for both Black and white children, or Asian and non-Asian children, or Indian and non-Indian children, so that these images can affect people's values. You know, we're trying to understand, why is our culture so racist and hostile? So what is the stasis that he is making in this argument?
Equality.
Quality, what?
Well, it's a sort of a question of is it right or is it wrong?
Yeah, was it a good decision or a bad decision to
Yeah.
stop publishing these things? And he's saying it's a good decision because publishing those things is a bad thing. So, you know, both of those things kind of play into the quality thing. All right, so right now, what I would like to do, hopefully we have enough time,
No pop
is
quiz.
okay, so on the thing I gave you, I would like you to read the one called Copyright in Dr. Seuss. And what I'd like you to do, I guess we don't have I'm just going to put you all into one group without me, though. So you need to click on it and get it so you have it separate from the Zoom window and that you can look at it. Does everybody have that?
It's not clickable, is it?
In the chat box, go into the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Everybody needs to go into the chat box. And click on this that I shared with you.
Okay.
And that should give you a Google document.
Yeah, it does.
Is it? Okay. So let's talk about the copyright and Dr. Seuss one. The first link is always a link, but sometimes those are hard to access. The second is a PDF version of the article. So just before I divide you up, I guess I will divide you into two groups of two each. All right, do you guys all have your article out? Hello?
It's coming up now. Yeah.
Does everybody have the article?
Yeah.
Yes.
One called copyright and okay, so what I want you to do in your groups, which are going to be two pairs, is talk about what is the argument in there. That is, so all of them. So the article starts with, okay, the data that the somebody might need to quiet. The data is that some of these books have racist images, and then they go from there to make a claim. And so figure out what that claim is, data plus claim, which is basically the enthymeme. See if you can think about what the warrant would be for that, and see if you can think about what the stasis of the argument is. So I'm going to randomly divide you up into two groups, and you'll get an invite. Jay, can you join the group? Are you in a position where you can do that? And those of you who are watching later, you can go into the, actually I will be posting these, this handout in the Blackboard unit, and you can do this on your own. So we're starting with the copyright and Dr. Seuss piece. Hello.
Going back to the main session, it looks like.
Yeah, sorry. So what's the, how does this argument work? What is the argument?
Were we all on the same article?
Yeah. The copyright article.
Yeah.
So
So the argument,
yeah, so what's the claim in the argument, in the article, in the editorial?
well, I think I had it a little confused in my discussion with Aaliyah, but it seems like the claim may be you should just make it public domain.
Okay. Is that what the other two got? Anna and Morgan?
So I think what we said was, how did I word it? That it's not part of cancel culture because the publication, like, it was their own book that they chose not to publish anymore.
Okay, so that is one of the sort of subclaims in it, that when the Seuss Enterprises decides not to publish their own, publish 6 of Seuss's books, that's not really part of cancel culture. So because it's their own. And that gets into this bigger debate about, is this an example of cancel culture that people are talking about? But what's the immediate claim that they're making? I think it is what Jay said is, yes, the images in some of Seuss's books are racist. So therefore, they should give up the copyright and stop making money on those images. What do they have to believe about that to argue that? There's kind of 2 parts to that.
Yeah, that making money off of racist images is not respectable.
Yeah, so if they don't really like it, then one shouldn't profit off of these racist images. What else are they arguing? Why take it off copyright and put it in the public domain? Why not just
Well,
limit it forever?
Because it's sort of an artwork that it's got some kind of quality to it that maybe it should be.
Why are they saying we should keep it in the public domain?
For historical purposes.
Yeah, what historical purposes?
Well, so we can learn from our mistakes, maybe.
Yeah, in what sense?
Well,
you guys,
yeah, somebody else.
Something to say? It's a similar argument to the one about Confederate statues. Let's not totally destroy them. Let's put them in a museum. Why would that be, why would that be a solution? No thoughts? I think in the article itself, let's see. But the benefits of preserving access to even vexing art are obvious. As the Washington Post's Elisa Rosenberg has noted, we all lose something about our understanding of the past and the present when we are shielded from the omnipresence of disreputable figures in past pop culture productions. And then after he says that, he goes on with a whole bunch of different examples. And I think he's trying to suggest that, yes, these are negative things, but maybe we should keep them in mind. You know, maybe we shouldn't hide them away. Maybe we should become aware of them so we understand more of you know, our history and of what the problems have been. So I noticed that the first thing that Jay said when I first mentioned this and showed the pictures was, oh, I didn't realize that Dr. Seuss was like that. And, you know, thinking about the fact that a beloved child writer, a writer of children's books, might have had some negative approaches to things, it helps us understand something just a little bit about those negative stereotypes and how it kind of is in the air, as that the editorial in the Times said. Okay, so I urge you to read the other pieces in that list and think about the argument that each one of them is making. Think about the overall argument. Like if you were to say, overall, what is the main thing they're trying to say? And how would I use Toulmin maybe to analyze it, or at least identify an enthymeme? Just to remind you where we are. Start thinking about writing this new blog on the rhetorical analysis of the things that you were talking about. Prepare for the quiz and see the schedule. I guess I meant to point out that we will be starting next week with a new color, blue, which means that we are starting on this structure chapter. And I'll put the specific reading parts in there by Wednesday. Okay?
Okay.
All right, I will see you next Wednesday. Hope you have a great beginning of the week.